Hey, welcome back to Cannabis with Tiff, your chill spot for all things cannabis and cultivation. Whether you're growing indoors, outdoors, or just curious about the process, I got you covered. Today, we're starting at the very beginning, from seed. We'll go over how to get your seeds to pop, talk about indoor versus outdoor growing, walk through setting up your grow space, and get into lighting. Because light is everything, you know? So get comfy and let's get into it. First up, germination. This is where the magic starts. The seed waking up and sending out that taproot. I love the ziplock bag method because it's simple and low stress. Here's what you do. Dampen a paper towel, not dripping wet, just enough so it feels moist, and place your seeds on the towel. Fold it over and seal it inside a ziplock bag, or any plastic container that can keep moisture in. Then put it somewhere warm and dark. I usually put them on our patio or a bookshelf to germinate. And check daily. In 1 to 3 days, you'll see a little white taproot start poking out. Sometimes it takes a little longer, so just be patient. Once the taproot hits about ½ an inch, it's ready to plant. Now, where are you going to grow? If you've got the space, outdoor growing is awesome. It's free light and fresh air. But sometimes nature throws curveballs. You've got weather, bugs, animals, and sometimes even nosy neighbors. Outdoor plants can also get huge, like the size of trees, and they follow the seasons. You plant in the spring and they're harvested in the fall. Indoor growing is where you get to be the boss of your environment. You control light schedules, humidity, temperature, and grow year-round if you want. That setup costs a bit more, and it takes some more know-how, but the control is worth it. It's like building a tiny temple for your plants. If you're going the indoor route, here's your starter checklist. Everything you'll need to set up your first grow space. First up, your space. You'll need either a grow tent or a dedicated area like a closet or a corner you can section off. The key is reflective walls to bounce light around efficiently, and it needs to be lightproof because cannabis plants rely on uninterrupted darkness during certain stages. You also want good airflow, so don't pick a totally sealed off spot. Moving on to air circulation. Fresh air is crucial. At the very least, grab a clip-on fan to keep the air moving. This helps prevent mold and strengthens the stems. Even better, install an exhaust fan with a carbon filter. That'll pull out stale air, keep fresh air cycling in, and control odors at the same time. And next, temperature and humidity. You don't want to skip this part. Cannabis likes it warm, around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit during the vegetative stage. Seedlings prefer things a bit more humid. You want to aim for 60 to 70% humidity while they're young. A cheap hygrometer can help you monitor both, and a small humidifier or dehumidifier can help you dial things in if needed. And finally, your growing medium. Start your seeds in solo cups or seedling trays filled with a light soil mix or coco coir. You want something airy and gentle, nothing loaded with nutrients right away. Young plants are sensitive, so too much too soon can actually stunt them. Once you've got your space dialed in and airflow handled, it's time to focus on what really makes your plants tick. Lighting, aka the backbone of your grow. Lighting might seem intimidating at first, but it really comes down to 3 things: giving your plants the right spectrum, the right intensity, and the right schedule. Alright, let's break that down. There are a few main categories new growers will come across. First, fluorescent lights. These include CFLs, which stands for compact fluorescent lights, and T5s, which are the long, skinny tubes you might have seen in garages or shops. They're cheap, easy to find, and they're gentle, which makes them great for seedlings or early growth. But they're not strong enough for flowering, so you'll outgrow them pretty quickly. Next up, HID lights, or high-intensity discharge lights. These include MH, or metal halide, and HPS, high-pressure sodium. This is older tech, but still used. MH is great for vegetative growth, while HPS is stronger in the red spectrum that helps flowering. They're powerful, but they run hot, use a lot of energy, and usually need extra ventilation. And then LEDs. Full-spectrum LEDs are what I recommend for beginners. They're modern, energy efficient, and run cooler. Many come with veg and bloom switches, so you can tailor the light to each growth stage. So, to recap real quick, CFLs and T5s are good for starting seeds. MH and HPS are strong but hot and power hungry. And LEDs are efficient, cooler, and beginner friendly. Now let's talk spectrum. No, not that spectrum. The light spectrum. Plants use different parts of the spectrum at different stages of life. There's blue light, think cool daylight, which encourages leafy vegetative growth. And red light, think warm sunsets, that trigger flowering and bud development. Full spectrum LEDs usually cover both ends, so you don't need to swap out bulbs. Just flip the switch. Next is light intensity and distance. Seedlings need gentler light, so keep light about 18 to 24 inches above them, depending on your setup. As the plants grow, you can bring the light closer, but watch out for light burn. If the leaves start curling or bleaching, back it up. And then there's light schedule. This part is super important. For vegetative growth, your plants need 18 hours of light and 6 hours of darkness. This keeps them growing strong. No flowering yet. When you're ready to flower, switch to 12 hours on, 12 hours off. That change in schedule is what tells the plant, hey, it's time to bloom. One of the biggest perks of indoor growing is that you control this timeline. Unlike outdoors where seasons do the talking. Indoors, you decide when to flip. So, to sum up, pick a light that fits your space and your budget. Match the spectrum to the growth stage, keep the right distance to avoid burning, and stick to the schedule. 18:6 for veg and 12:12 for flower. Lighting might seem like a big deal, and it is, but once you understand the basics, it gets easier. Think of it like feeding your plants energy. Get that dialed in, and you're halfway to happy, healthy plants. Oh, and if you're stressed about keeping track of light cycles, a simple light timer from Amazon can be a total lifesaver. You just set it up and forget it. No more guessing when to flip the switch. Now that your space is all set up, it's time to move on to the next step. Planting your germinated seed. Once that taproot shows, it's planting time. Make a small hole about 1/2 inch deep in your medium. Carefully place the seed taproot down. Tweezers help if you're nervous about touching it. Cover lightly with soil and water around the edges, but don't soak it. You want to keep it moist but not drenched. Keep humidity high around your seedling by covering it with a clear dome or cup until it sprouts. You can even use the bottom of a plastic water bottle. Remember, a clean space equals a healthy plant. Keeping your grow space clean is key to preventing mold, pests, and other problems. Wipe up spills right away, avoid water pooling, and keep everything tidy. If you're growing outdoors, clear away debris and check your plants regularly. Supporting tall plants with stakes, cages, or a trellis can make a big difference too. Speaking of outdoor growing, let's dive into what you'll need to get started outside. The most important factor outdoors is location. You want a spot that gets at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight a day. Morning sun is ideal because it helps dry off dew early, which lowers the risk of mold and mildew. You'll also want good airflow to keep plants healthy and help prevent disease. But too much wind can cause damage, so a little protection is helpful too. If you're in a windy area, consider planting near a fence, shrubs, or putting up a natural windbreak like tall grasses or even pallets. Then, there's climate. Your local growing zone makes a big difference in how and when you grow. In colder zones, you might have a shorter window between last frost and first frost, so you'll need strains that finish flowering faster. Or you might want to use autoflowers. These are strains that don't rely on day length to flower and can finish in as little as 9 to 12 weeks from seed. In hotter zones, you'll want genetics that can handle heat and possible drought stress. Some sativa-dominant strains are naturally more resilient in hot, dry weather. The key here is know your zone and choose genetics that fit. Starting seeds indoors before transplanting outdoors is a great way to get a jump on the season, especially if it's still cold or unpredictable out. I personally like to start my seeds in February or March. It gives your plant a solid start in a controlled environment. But don't just take them straight outside when the weather warms up. You'll want to harden them off first. That means gradually introducing them to outdoor sunlight, temperature shifts, and wind over several days. Start with a couple hours in dappled shade, then slowly move them into more sun each day until they're ready for full exposure. A covered patio or shaded porch helps with this transition. If you're planting directly into the ground, test your soil if you can. You want soil that drains well, holds moisture, and has plenty of organic matter. Heavy clay or super sandy soils are tough for cannabis, so a lot of growers build raised beds or use large fabric pots to control their environment more easily. A good soil mix might include compost, worm castings, peat moss or coco coir, perlite or pumice for drainage, and a balanced nutrient charge to start. You can buy pre-mixed soils or even build your own. And that brings us to nutrients. Whether you go organic or synthetic, the most important thing is consistency. Organic growers often build living soil, which means the soil itself contains microbes and fungi that help feed the plant. You can top dress with things like kelp meal, alfalfa meal, fish meal, or compost. Some folks brew compost teas to add nutrients. On the synthetic side, you'll use bottled nutrients that deliver more immediate results and tighter control. But they require a consistent feeding schedule and pH monitorings to avoid lockout. It really depends on your style and goals. Just don't overfeed and pay attention to what your plants are telling you. Watering is another big factor. Outdoor plants need regular watering, especially during hot, dry stretches. In-ground plants can go a little longer between waterings, but raised beds or pots dry out faster. Make sure you have easy access to a hose or set up a drip irrigation system to save time and water. And remember, water early in the day if you can. That way, any excess moisture has time to evaporate and you reduce your risk of mold or mildew. Sometimes pests and wildlife find your plants just as tasty as you do. Depending on your area, you might be dealing with aphids, spider mites, caterpillars, deer, groundhogs, raccoons, or even neighborhood pets. For insects, many growers use organic sprays like insecticidal soap, or they bring in beneficial bugs like ladybugs. For animals, fencing or cages are smart, especially for young plants. And some people might even install bat houses. This is because bats feed on moths, which lay the eggs that turn into bud-eating caterpillars. Then there's also privacy and security issues. Even if you're growing legally, not everyone needs to know. Large plants can draw attention, especially late in the season. Use trellises, companion plants like sunflowers or tomatoes, or even greenhouses or hoop houses to keep things low-key. And remember, the bigger your plant gets, the more visible and potentially vulnerable it becomes. And finally, harvest and drying. You'll need a clean, dry space with good airflow to hang your buds. That could be a garage, a shed, or even a closet indoors with a small fan and a dehumidifier. Avoid direct sunlight during drying and keep it slow and steady to preserve terpenes and avoid mold. We'll dive deeper into harvest and drying techniques in a future episode, so stay tuned. To recap for outdoor growing, here's your checklist. You want good sunlight, 6 to 8 hours minimum, know your climate and grow zone, start seeds indoors if needed and harden off. You want quality soil, either native or built. You'll want to choose organic or synthetic nutrients and stay consistent. You'll need a watering plan, pest and animal control, privacy and discretion, a drying space ready ahead of time, and strain selection that fits your season and climate. And here's the thing, you can make outdoor growing as simple or as dialed in as you want. You could pop a seed in some bag soil, water it ever so often, and end up with a plant. It might not be perfect, but it'll grow. But if you're growing for medicine or you really care about quality, chances are you're trying to be intentional. You're thinking about the inputs, the strain, the soil life, and the end result. It becomes more than just growing a plant. It becomes a relationship with it. So whether you're just dipping your toes in or building out a full garden plan, there's a version of outdoor growing that can meet you where you're at. Some quick tips to avoid headaches. I said this last episode and I'm going to say it again. Don't overwater. Let the top inch dry before watering again. Start small. 1 to 3 plants is plenty. And don't hesitate to ask questions. The grow community is huge and helpful. All right, That's a wrap for this episode of Cannabis with Tiff. Got questions or want to share your grow? Hit me up on Instagram at cannabis.podcast. I love seeing your gardens. Next time, we'll dive into seedling care, when to transplant, and keeping those babies thriving. Be back soon!